Collar Success Group.
It's kind of weird. We had this storm that blew in where we're at right now. The rain and the thunder actually cooled it down quite a bit. I went down at lunch and stepped outside, and it was. This sounds weird, and everybody's gonna laugh when I say this, but it was almost chilly outside with the amount of humidity all of a sudden in the atmosphere. So, um, and nice and toasty on the inside. It's super exciting Thursday afternoon. Not really sure where everybody's at, but we're gonna find out here in just a couple of minutes where everybody's at, what you're doing. Tom, that's a pretty cool still photo that you got there in your Zoom. Tom Miller, good to have you in as well. So super excited to be able to be hosting this. We'll give it a couple minutes, a minute here. We'll start exactly at the top of the hour, 4 o'clock. But here's what I want to know is those that are hopping in, I need two things from you. You are 100% going to need something to write with and something to write on. Today's purpose will not just be a show. If you showed up to watch something, I hate to tell you, you're probably going to be pretty disappointed if you came for entertainment. But I will tell you this, if you came to build and grow your business, you came to the right place. And so we're going to do some working on your business today. Take plenty of notes, going to be good. I'm going to give you good information today. We're going to also talk about things that are takeaways from today you need to go do. In addition to that, some additional thoughts that we're going to be sharing with you. I'd like to introduce myself just really quick for those that have never, we've seen the registration list. There's probably people that have never even heard of who we are and what we're about. So I want to introduce myself, but before I get going, I just want to give a huge shout out to all of our members that are joining in with us today for the Management Mastery series that we host here at the Blue Collar Success Group. So once a quarter, we like to get together. We like to share information just industry wide. No matter if you're not in the HVAC, plumbing, or electrical, you're just in a blue collar space, we're happy to have you along here today. I do want to say that for those that don't know, my name is Chris. I'm the president here at the Blue Collar Success Group, and that doesn't matter. If you forget everything today that I teach, that will matter to me. But everything about us, you can forget. It's not going to be a big deal. Won't hurt my feelings. But I've been in the industry now for almost 26 years. I'm coming up on 26. I know. Yep. I promise it's not that I aged well. It's 100% that I got started early. So, where's show of hands? How many people got started early in the industry? You just cut your teeth and got out there and get it early. Brian Jackson, good to see you, brother. Hey, Josh, good to see you, brother. I'm glad you're in here as well, man. Good to see your face. But I got into the industry 26 years ago. I'm an electrician by trade. Would kind of go on and build and grow a business, and I sold that back at the end of 2017, a multi-location multi-million dollar company. But today I'm doing what I really enjoy doing, and that is to be able to coach and train business owners and managers to be able to help them recognize their full potential and then to be able to help them get there. Today, as crazy as it is, I do want to say this. If you are looking for an accounting class, because we're talking about debt, you came to the wrong place. But I do want to throw it out there that I do have a semester of accounting under my belt. And then I realized that I do not want to be an accountant. For all my accountant folks out there, I have much respect for you. But today, our goal and our objective is to be able to increase our business acumen, to be able to help to understand more about what is our business telling us. And by the title today, I hope it tells the story about what we're going to talk about, remind you guys what we're here to talk about, debt destruction and how to avoid it. But before we get started, I want you to do me a favor, open up your cameras, turn those things on, leave yourself muted, but get your camera on, and then do me a favor. Open up the chat so that we all know how it works, and I want you to chat it in. Where are you zooming in from today? What's the city, state, whatever you want to tell us? Just want to know who all's in the room. Love to be able to see. Yeah, there it goes. Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm going to be there third Saturday in October. If y'all know what happens in Knoxville third Saturday in October. South Dakota, Gilbert, Arizona. South Dakota in the house. Parrish, Florida, right up the street from me. Philly, good old Philly cheesesteak. Good to see you there, Bill Sweeney. Gilbert, Arizona. Awesome. Good to that. Coming in hot from Mass. I got Depew, New York. Good to see you, Kerry. Glad you're here. Beaumont, Texas. Heck yeah, Dan Dowdy. Good to see you, buddy. Dan Sechrist from Boulder, Colorado. Heck yeah. The City of Champions. Okay. All right, David Stahl, the City of Champions. I guess we refer. Is that Pittsburgh? Is that right, David? City of Champions, Pittsburgh, I think so. San Fernando. Hey, awesome. We got some folks coming in from there. McKinney, Texas, outside of there. I got some Sarasota in the house. Melissa. Oh, Blue Collar Roofing. Hey, you guys are in my backyard. Good to see you guys. Houston, Texas, SoCal, Pittsburgh, PA up in the house. ATL, that's my hometown. Good little Mass in the house. McKinney again, Longmont, just literally Hempville, Pennsylvania, Atlanta, Georgia. Heck yeah, Central Illinois, Tampa, Florida. Robert, good to see you, man. Glad you were able to join us in San Fernando Valley as well. Hey, enough about me, enough about you. Let's get to the topic at hand. I want you to do me a favor. Get you something to write on, get you something to write with. We're about to get this thing cranked up. John, if you could do me a huge favor, just give me a thumbs up as long as you can see what they need to be seeing right now. Is that, we're in the house with that. All right, cool. So if I do my job correctly at the end of this show, you guys are going to be off to the races with some good information about your business. But really today, when we think about debt destruction, I'm reminded of the ebbs and flows. And for many that are on today, I want to be very clear about something. This is 100% about you and your business, but we are in a different economic time that we've been in, say, the past 3 years. Things have evolved. And by the way, newsflash, this happens about every 4 years in our economy. We're going to have some ups and downs and things are going to happen. But the reality is you're still going to run your business. But the economic times that are around us and surrounding us may change how we run the business. And I'm going to say this is going to put some people out of business. Simply put, this is going to put some people out of business because they're not paying attention. They're not watching and they're not looking. In many cases, they're not aware. And so today, I applaud you because you're here today to get information and look after your business. Take care of the goose, right? And a lot of times think about this. Your business is the goose and the profits are the golden egg. And a lot of times people like to take care of the profits without taking care of the goose. And so I want to get you guys going today. Be mindful of your time. It's 4 o'clock Eastern. Shortly after that, we're about 4:06 now. Our intention is this is a 2-hour webinar that we're going to teach. But if I run out of content because I teach it faster than I thought, you guys will be at liberty to be able to hang out. However, let me also say that throughout the process, if you have questions, don't hesitate to chat those in. We're going to keep those, make sure we get you some answers toward the end. But before we get started, I'd like to launch a poll right now. You're going to see a poll pop up in Zoom. And the question is, why did you show up? Answer number 1 is to avoid being in debt. Number 2, I feel like I'm heading in the wrong direction. And number 3, I'm in debt and I'm looking to fix it. Man, look at this. This warms my heart. I know that you might be thinking, God, Chris, we're in a situation where our heart's not warm, right? But we're very anxious. And so today I hope to be able to get you guys resolved. And as of right now, it looks like we're only at about 70% participation. I do want to let everybody know that you're not signing up for something when you click on the button. I don't even know who's voting for what. We can't see any of that. All I can see is the number of participants and the number of votes, and I can see the total number of votes, but I cannot see. So I'm still looking for 9 people right now to vote with me, 8 people to vote right now. This is almost like church. We're passing the plate around. You got to vote. 42 out of 42 out of 51. All right, now we're up to 9. 9 people haven't voted. Vote again. All right, I'm going to chalk that one up too. There's people that can't vote. Oh, there we go. Okay, I said can't. Whew, we jumped 44. Yep, 44 out of 52, 45. We got 7 more people. I'm just curious. We're 86%. That's a B in my book. Can y'all at least help me get an A out of the voting here? 88%. I just need 2 more people to vote. You haven't voted so that we can share the results. I want to share it with the crowd 47. Hey, we're at 90%. John, do me a favor. Can you close down that voting and share the results? I just want to talk about results from a high level for a moment. 57% of the people said, hey, I'm in here because I don't want to end up in a position that I don't know how to get out of. 11% of the population's here feels like, hey, something's off. I don't think I'm heading in the right direction. And whatever is giving you that feeling, I want you to honor it today. And I want you to lean in as we're teaching and training to take good copious notes and good direction about what you can do to avoid heading in the right direction. And then lastly, I got 32%. I'm in debt and I'm looking to fix it. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're up to debt in your eyeballs, but hey, I know I'm in debt. I'm probably getting to a place where I've overextended myself and made some decisions, and I want to know how I can kind of unwind and get out. So, John, if you can do me a favor, you can pull that down. Thank you so much for everybody participating. We got an A in voting, and so that makes me feel really good. I like to be able to get good scores. And so when we think about showing up, you came for the reason you came for. But I want you to do this really quick. This is something that I have personally started doing for myself. And because it has worked so well for me when I'm an attendee somewhere, I thought I would share it with you today. And it is simply this. I want you to write now on a piece of paper, I want you to set an intention. And this is not some woo-woo, far out, outside crazy business stuff. I want you to set intention because I want you to remember that your mind is going to start wondering while we're here. It's going to be, oh, you know what, Susie, that I was supposed to call that customer back, or hey, I got John. Just clear your headspace for a moment and write down what your intention is because the brain is a problem solving tool. And if you don't give it something to solve, it's going to start thinking about things it needs to solve. And the next hour and 45 minutes of our time, I want you here for the reason you came here. And I want you to set that intention by just simply writing it on paper. If today your intention is to learn more, then perfect. Learn more about what, right? Get real specific with your intention. And I found that this helps me a lot because I can get very distracted as I'm going through a presentation, watching somebody else, and I'm trying to learn. My brain tends to wander. And so I always draw it back to what was my intention today? Let's go find it. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate you taking an opportunity to set your mind and get it right, get clarity around what you're here for. The question that we have to ask is when we use the word debt, a lot of times people use the word debt and then they connect it to a bad thing. And I'm not today prescribing to one way or the other, but I do want to just proclaim today that there is good debt and there is bad debt. And so when businesses can take on good debt, it's not a negative thing. However, sometimes taking on good debt can end up turning into bad debt if you don't have a plan. So I want you to write that down. Good debt can go bad without a plan. That is something I need you to write down. Good debt can go bad without a plan. I see this from time to time as I review balance sheets and P&Ls of businesses, and I can see that they head down the wrong direction. And when I start looking at liabilities and I see loans, automobiles, credit cards, loans, and what that means is there probably at one point was an intention around that debt being good, but something happened. And so the ability to service that debt all hinges upon something we're going to talk about today. And so I do want to just give you, from a knowledge standpoint, really the differences between good debt and bad debt. And I want to give you just a few characteristics, if you could, so that you can identify, hey, that actually, like, I looked at it like that's not a good thing, but hey, Chris, after we talked about it, I realized that this is actually good debt for the business. Like, this is a good thing. And I'm going to say this back 4 years ago, 4 years ago when COVID hit, about 6 months before that, we started at the Blue Collar Success Group talking a lot about cash on hand and cash reserves. And I had one of my dear friends who is also one of our members. He said to me, Chris, if you would not have told me that 6 months ago and tell me to actually strengthen my business by having cash reserves, COVID would have put me out of business. And so remember that when times are plenteous, people can be very frivolous in spending. And it may make sense at that time. And I want to also say this, when good debt goes bad, you need to take action. And don't just let it drag on, because the longer you let it drag on, the more weight that you're going to be carrying from that debt. And that debt only ends up snowballing into another debt, into another debt. So I want to give you some simple characteristics around good debt. When I think about the good debt, once again, debt, these are all going to be, I'm going to just hop up here for a minute and we'll come back to these. I'm going to put the word balance sheet up here for a moment. And John, we don't need to highlight that right now. I just want to come back to that because the balance sheet is really what tells the story for us. Okay. It really begins to paint the picture. And I can give you some strategies. I can give you some strategies around what they call ratios. And if you want to do the work yourself, you can do that, but I'm going to also get you to go back and do some historical things. And for those that are on today said, hey, I'm here so that I can help avoid that happening, I'm going to give you a tactical thing around this to see if you're heading in the right direction or not. Okay, so let's talk about the good debt. One characteristic of good debt is that it helps us to increase our revenue, and it could also help increase our value, meaning the business is more valuable now that we've taken on this debt. What? Hold up, Chris. So we take on debt and we become more valuable once again, as long as there's strategy behind the debt. So when we think about that, I'm going to give you a few examples of that. A business loan for expansion, right? Maybe it might be, hey, we're going to open a new location. Hey, we're going to move into another trade. Hey, I need to buy new equipment to get me into that trade. Also, it could be real estate, and purchasing property for the business doesn't always make sense for people, but once again, that does make the business more valuable when it's on a piece of property that's owned. It can now go on the balance sheet, and depending on how you structure your business, whether the business owns it or some other entity owns it from a tax standpoint. I don't want to get into tax strategies today. The next one is one that I really love to think about when I think about increasing revenue. It's really about increasing my team's skill. And so when I take income and I invest it into team members, like maybe your deficit of team members, you need 3 more field team members, but you decided to go to the drawing board and you're going to create your own HVAC techs, create your own plumbers, create your own electricians, because we were in a time where we didn't have enough of them. And so I'm going to say this, that strategy that worked then should be a strategy that we always follow. We should always be growing our own, no matter if you're like, Chris, right now we need calls. I understand that, but there's going to come a time where you're going to be like, Chris, we need people. And it's going to be too late because you're not forward thinking about it. And I want you to always be thinking, you're always going to be going through not enough calls, not enough people, and it's going to look like this. That's just the business, right? So when we look at investing in people, it's about improving their skills to help them generate more revenue for the business. So I was on the phone yesterday with someone who's looking to take out $1 million SBA loan. And I just asked him the question, why? And as we started talking, it was, hey, I want to add a few trucks. And so as a part of adding the few trucks, I want to make sure that I have the ability to spend the money to train them. And I'm like, that's brilliant. That makes a lot of sense, right? Once again, there's a strategy behind the loan, behind the debt that we're taking on. Number 2 is favorable interest rates. And I'm going to park right here and talk for a moment. When I use the word favorable interest rates, some people think I'm crazy when I say anything 5% and under is free money to me. Let me repeat that. Anything that's 5% and under is like free money to me. Now, Chris, how could you make such an absurd statement about that? I want you to think about the yield of the market right now, as volatile as it has been, up and down and up and down. But if you look at it consistently, invested money is going to give you an ROI of, at minimum, depending on where you're investing, and this is not an investing class, but somewhere around about up to 5%. And I'm not talking about 401ks and crypto. I'm just talking about traditional investments, right? Just traditional investments. So if I pull money out and it was making 5%, to take on a loan that I'm getting at 7%, I kind of feel like I'm really only paying 2%. Does that make sense? So I want you to hear that, because that cash is tied up. My liquidity is tied up somewhere making me money, but the moment I pull it out, I'm losing that money. So I would much rather take it on at the mentality of 2%, right? Or 3 or 4 or 5. And I would say this today that for many of us that have been around for a while, there's been some times where interest rates are not favorable at all, right? Some of y'all remember back in the 80s, interest rates of 17 and 18%. That was pretty normal, right? It was very normal. And now people freak out about that. So when we think about favorable interest rates, I think about things like SBA loans and more importantly, lines of credit. For everybody on this call right now, if you don't take anything away, right now, while you're financially sound, you need a line of credit. I'm not saying you need to go get it and use it. Go spend the $1,000, $1,500 with local institution. We've got vendors we can connect you with, whatever you want to do, but get access to capital right now. Chris, I don't need it right now. I understand that, but when you need it, you need to already have had made arrangements that you can access it. In fact, one of our vendors, Live Oak Bank, has a program called Live Oak Express, and they can do up to $500,000 at 11%, and it funds within 3 to 14 business days. You can't get any better than that. If all of a sudden I needed access to $250,000 and I could get that funded in 2 weeks, are you kidding me? On a non-secured loan, this is where I'm going. You better make sure you go get that line of credit, but don't just use it to be using it. You got to have strategy, and the same is around that SBA loan as well. Number 3 is make sure that the investment that you're making in the debt is tax deductible. So there's a portion of that depreciates. And once again, I'm not a tax strategist. That's not what I'm here to give you information on. But you need to make sure that the loans that you're taking out for the business persons can actually be reduced out of your taxable income for the interest that's going toward that. And I will say this is a very commonly known thing in our industry. Yet, if your accounting team or your accountant isn't asking you the right questions when you're making investments, getting loans, and doing these things, you need to make sure that you shore up and meet with your accountant to make sure they know about these things. Because let me say this, I've said this once, I'll say it again. The tax code is written to ensure that you pay your fair share, and sometimes more than your fair share. There's not one single tax code that's written to make sure you don't overpay. Can I get a witness, right? Like Uncle Sam, and I'm not saying it's a privilege to pay taxes. We live in an amazing country. I just don't want to pay more than I'm supposed to. That's all. That's how I feel about that. All right. So I'll get off of that. Let's talk about bad debt characteristics. I want you to tune in on bad debt characteristics. Very similar to good, almost opposite. But I want to spend some time talking about this because I'm very aware of something that's going on in our industry and in other industries that I'm not crying wolf, but I'm saying to you, I'm waving the yellow flag. All right. And it does not generate income. Using high interest credit cards for non-essential operational costs. Let me give you that as an example. If I can use it and pay it off in 30 days, great. Get all your extra points, get your extra miles, get your stuff. But if I'm using a credit card that has high interest to float me from month to month, I'm waving the yellow flag right now. You need to be talking to somebody about how do I not service the debt or service the expenses of the business by tapping into a credit card, unless, once again, their strategy. And then I'll say this as well. Type it in the box. Everybody do me a favor, open the box. And this is the time to get real. How many people like to have nice things? Type it in the box. And we're not even getting descriptive about what nice things really means. Okay, thank you, CJ. Yep. Tanya, thank you for that. Yeah, like I'm getting a lot of yeses here. Like I like nice things. And by the way, nice things may be something different to you than it is to me, right? I might think it's one thing. There you go. So I might think it's one thing, and then somebody else thinks something else is nice. And that's all goes back to the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Nice things is in the eye of the beholder, what you consider to be valuable and nice. However, I will say this. There are times where businesses do things to make their business look better to the outside world. And this is not a, I'm not coming at you guys hard on this, but I do want to say this. Sometimes like having nice brand new trucks, having like the nicest of everything is not always the best advice, meaning that we're spending money on luxury items that's really not helping the business's core operations grow. This is not a plea to say to you that as a business owner, because you can drive, I can tell you guys this in the state of Florida, from a write-off standpoint, they don't like to write off Rolls Royce as a business expense. They don't like to, but if you can evidence why you own a Rolls Royce, they'll let you write it off. And other exotic cars is what they say, like exotic cars, whatever that means. I'm not proposing today that you can't drive a nice vehicle and have the business fund it. However, if I went out and decided I want to turn the whole fleet over tomorrow because, I want to look like we've got nice vans, it might not be the best decision. But if you're looking going, Chris, I got all this profit, I need something to do with it so that I don't overpay in taxes. Well, that's a little bit of a different strategy, right? But I just want to clarify it's unnecessary luxury items. And you got to decide what's necessary. And once again, I like nice stuff. And so there's some times where I have luxury items. And in business, I had luxury items. Why? Because quite frankly, I can. I don't need to explain to anybody. And if you're as you're on the other end and you're like, I can get down with that, Chris. I don't feel like I need to explain to people why I like nice things. Number two, high interest rates. Very similar to the interest rates that are favorable for good debt. And I want to say this, I know this for a fact that this is going on. Predatory loans. And what's happening is people, and I'm not naming names and saying that they're doing this, but now all of a sudden vendors are coming out of the woodworks wanting to loan you money that typically is not a loan institution. QuickBooks, other people that are offering these loans. I'm going to say to you, be a little bit more clear about what you're doing and why. And I use the word predatory loans because many of them are high interest and short term. It doesn't really allow you to actually carry the debt. It puts your back against the wall as it relates to running the business. I was just on the phone last week with someone and we were talking about credit lines, and it was brought to my attention that they had a credit line. Payments need to be made weekly through an ACH at 40% interest. Now, let me just say this. When your back's against the wall and you don't see another option, you might be willing to take that option. And not very many times will that be the best option. And so it's good to have somebody in your corner to help talk you through strategy before you make decisions like that. And then in some cases, high interest rates like overextending lines of credit, right? Meaning I'm going beyond, the credit card is no longer designed to help me carry operational expenses month to month, but credit card become a way for me to find a way to pay the bills. Does that make sense? So using more credit than you realistically could repay. And so that gets you in a very, very troubling situation. Number three is not all loans are tax deductible. So like personal loans and credit card interests that do not directly relate to the operations, typically those are not tax deductible. And so you can't get the advantage for that. So let's talk risk for a moment. What are some of the risks? Cash flow problems can incur when this happens because you got high interest rates, when I look at that, like non-productive investments I've made is draining cash flow, making it very difficult for me to meet my financial obligations. And I've said this before, I'll say it again probably today. Profit does not equal cash. I want you to write that down. I want you to write it down. Profit does not equal cash, meaning when I get my P&L, even if you are a cash-based business, if you're on cash-based accounting, when you get your P&L and you're reading it and it says, hey, great news, we made $100,000 this month. Why is there not $100,000 in the bank? It's because profit does not equal cash. And I don't want to go into a theory of why that all exists, but just understand that. Number two, the credit score impact of the business. When a business starts to accumulating as an organization bad debt, it starts to negatively affect the business's credit score, and more importantly, harder for them to secure favorable financing in the future. So this is the reason why businesses get hit with a 20% weekly payment, ACH to bank account, because more than likely, if the business has to take that loan, it's because the credit score has been impacted through not making good financial decisions. And then lastly is the bankruptcy risk. I mean, that means, how about this, an interesting statistic? 95% of small businesses fail within the first 5 years. Let me repeat that. 95% of small businesses fail within the first 5 years. Now, I don't know about you, but that makes me want to get up off my rear end and be like, well, what the heck what makes them go out of business, Chris? Why are people going out of business? Well, I just want to get real. And I'm going to actually stop right here. We're going to talk strategy for a moment. And John, if you could do me a favor, highlight us as we start to talk about this. Now, if your financials are not clean, this is going to be a little bit of a difficult thing to do. But here's what I want you to do strategically. I want you to write this down, okay? Because you won't be able to do this right now, and I'm happy to get this up here. Today is August the 22nd, right? So I would go back from August the 22nd, and then I would go back to at least 3 years, right? So I go 2021, 2022, 2023, and then add the now in to see what that looks like. At minimum, I would try to go back 3 years from today, meaning like 1, 2, 3. With me? Everybody with me? At least give me thumbs up so I can see that y'all are with me. All right, thank you, Brandon. I got Brandon there, gave me a thumbs up. So what I want you to do is I want you to go get your balance sheet. And in your balance sheet, it's broken down, and actually I'm gonna put this as a different piece of paper here, because I think it just makes sense. So at the top, you're gonna have your assets and you're gonna have your liabilities. Now, when I do this ratio, I want you to understand that I'm sharing this with you from a logical standpoint, not from an accounting standpoint. Truly, if I'm giving you the accounting ratio, it will not be done like this. Not that I don't like the accounting ratio or that I disagree with it, but I want to show you what's really going on. And so when I use the word assets, I want you to look at liquid. That means money, like actual cash. The reason why. What else falls on assets? Well, let me just show you what all goes in assets outside of cash. You're going to have vehicles. You're going to have, you could possibly have property. You could have AR could be on there. Let me think of some. Oh, this is a good one. You ready? Inventory. And let me just say this. The only thing that's up there that you can cash in on at cash value is AR. And I'm saying today, don't operate a business that has AR. Accounts receivable outside of 24 hours is scary for me. And if your business doesn't operate that way and you're super profitable and you've been in business for 25 years, hey, thumbs up to you, man. That's just not a risk I'm willing to take. And I can talk about how and why that does and how we were able to build a multi-location. That business today is a multi-state business, and we did it all off of credit. Yeah, we did it all off of credit, not off of cash. But where I'm going with this is I want you to then you're going to have, and then once you move into liabilities, you're going to have two types. You're going to have short and long term. And typically the short and the long term, you're going to see this where some of probably your credit card debt and things like that are going to be. I want you to then take this and I want you to total it. You take this and then total this. This is a little harder to do sometimes, but definitely look at the short term as a part of this. I want you to take the cash and I want you to simply write at the top, right? You can go 2021, you want to do it in a spreadsheet, 2022, 2023, 2024, and you're going to go through and basically go cash. How much cash was there? How much cash? How much cash? How much cash? And then there, really what we're talking about is debt. Debt and debt. And what I want you to do is I want you to divide that and see every year, does it look like this? Does it look like this? Or does it look like this? If the moment that debt outpaces assets, cash, yellow flag. You're taking on more debt right now than you're able to service. And so It's a very simple formula. This is not necessarily, they call it what's called a quick ratio, and I don't want to get into accounting terminology. Yeah, that's right. A country boy from North Georgia knows a little bit about accounting, but not enough to be an accountant, just for the record. Not enough. I would never pass, but I do know business. And when it comes to business, I want to give you very simple strategies. I want to give you simple tactical things. Anybody have any questions about this? Like, if you got questions, I want you to type them in. But this is how I want you to go look at it, because if I see a business today, and let's just say a business comes to us as a member and we know they're a little cash strapped, this is always what I want to do. I want to go back and look and see if the debt is outpacing the cash. And if so, we can catch it soon enough, we can fix it. Okay, so it's not like, so you're on the line today and you're like, hey, Chris, went and did the add together short and long-term liabilities. Renee, for me, I would look at the long-term liabilities. And I usually, like, things like, most of the time service business is not going to have anything past like 10 years usually for long-term. So if this will help, Renee, when you're looking at it, if you're like, yeah, that's actually property we own, don't worry about that. Don't lump that in. And this is going to get you directionally correct. That's why I like this, because I don't have to go in and split hairs to find out what's going on. I can just simply go cash, because the other thing is, when I look at a ratio, I could see what my ratio as well is by taking my assets and my liabilities, getting the ratio. But that doesn't tell me what I really want to know, which is my cash growing at the same pace that my debt's growing? Does that make sense? So Renee, if that'll help you when you look at, have we accumulated long-term debt, long-term liability, start looking at what they are. And if you're like, yeah, like it's past 10 years, it's past 12 years, it's property we own. Vehicles, 100%, add them in. If you find that you've got vehicles that are in long-term for some reason, then 100%, if they're in long-term. And this goes back to, if your accountant is not very in tune with your business, this exercise may be very difficult for you because the balance sheet may not be right. Now, let me share with you a few things. I got to make sure that I give you this nugget, because I don't think it would be fair if I don't explain why. Because once again, if I'm a bank, on paper, you might look really good, because the bank is going to look at all of this, right? Here's the challenge. If stuff hits the fan and you need money, inventory, 10 cents on the dollar, forget about it. Ain't nobody coming in and buying your inventory at 70 or 25%. They're going to want a 90% discount. And let me get super real. Can I get a oh yeah typed in if you know the material on your balance sheet is garbage sitting in your warehouse and you know it's not really usable? Can I get a oh yeah? Some people, yep, there we go. Thank you, Angie. Appreciate the honesty. Because every time I look at a balance sheet, I look at it and I go year after year after year after year, and the inventory number doesn't change. And I'm like, it's just a bunch of garbage sitting in there that you never run through. Now, there's different strategies. I don't want to spin into a squirrel here, but that and the vehicle component, those vehicles, that is an asset that depreciates the day you buy it. So you're already losing money. So trying to offload the vehicles doesn't turn into actual real cash. In some cases, you may end up actually going backwards by offloading the vehicles to create cash in the business. I do say AR because, well, if your company's good at managing AR, most of the AR's fairly real, like you eventually will get paid. And so if we go into a cash crunch, we can then start. And for those that are on, to give you some strategy, if you're in a cash crunch and you've got AR and people are on 90 days, but you're like, yeah, but I gave them those terms. Pick up the phone if you're in cash crunch mode and start calling people and start offering them discounts to pay now. Let me repeat that. If you've got heavy AR and you've done a good job of managing it, meaning like you haven't let stuff get very far out. Let's say you give somebody terms on 30 days, inside of 30, and we're on day 10 and you really need cash. Start picking up the phone and being like, hey, and by the way, if I can get you to go ahead and take care of this, I can go ahead and offer you a discount on your balance. What that does is it creates cash. Chris, that sounds counterintuitive because then I'm not getting all my money. But remember, it's not about making money, it's about cash. And cash is not king. Positive cash flow is king. Okay. So once again, I know this is a lot of scribble scrabble. This is what goes on in my brain. Now you see why at the beginning I said set an intention, because if you don't, you may you may end up having a squirrel moment like I have. And so I want to make sure that as we're going through this, once again, that we can feed the masses. This helped somebody in the room right now. This helped somebody. I know it did. And for that, I'm very grateful for this opportunity to be sharing the time with you. Now let's move on to getting in the green. We talked to you in our email marketing that we're going to talk about getting you in the green. And so getting you in the green, there's two things that I think about. I think about the color of money, right? Green money, greenbacks. But I also think about when a company, quote, and I'm going to call it air quote, gets in the green, what does that mean? It means that they're profitable. They're in the green. They're not operating in the red, or they're not operating at break even. They're operating in the green. Their business is turning a profit. So when we think about what causes that, I want to give you strategy today. Number one is sell at the right price. And before you fall into the trap of the amateur, for those that don't know what the trap of the amateur is, it's yeah, Chris, I already know the answer to that. We're good. We already checked that box. Interesting enough, our most recent member came from another organization, and they've been running the price that they've been running now for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, and it was wrong. And I just called his name and I was like, man, you got to make sure that you're selling at the right price. Setting it and forgetting it doesn't work. And more importantly, I'm going to just stop for a moment. Our members will probably roll their eyes at me. All of our members now are going to roll their eyes at me when I say what I'm going to say here, which is pricing is the key fundamental to profitability. And you got to sell at the right price. And in order for us to sell at the right price, John, I'm gonna have to go on a tangent. I'm sorry. I can't not show people what I'm talking about. So let me give you the strategy around selling at the right price. Number one, it starts with what is the rate that I need to be selling at? What does that mean? And that's a dollar figure. I'm not saying today, hey, you got to charge flat rate. I'm just saying there is a calculation for doing it flat rate, and then there is a calculation for doing it if you're a T&M company. But you've got to know what the rate going is. What is the rate that you need to be charging? And rarely does it have anything to do with your competitors. Just throwing that out there. Number one is identify the rate. Number two is I now apply that to my price book. But don't go anywhere. That's where most people check the box and go, we're good. Number three, task time. Doesn't matter that you know what your billable hour is if a task in your price book is set for 0.5 hours, but it really takes your technician 0.75 hours or 1 hour. You now are not priced right. You know the right rate, but you've not applied the methodology to your price book. And so this takes time. And by the way, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. Love all the price books out there you can go buy, but they don't know your technicians. Everything is built off of industry averages. I'm just telling you right now, I worked with ServiceTitan. I built their electrical price book pro for them. And I told them this thing will not be perfect for every market because different markets are going to require different things as far as task time. This will be a good industry average for you. So for those that are signed up with other vendors that use their price book, you better go in and make sure this stuff is right. Right? It's your responsibility. You ready? Number four, make sure that the task includes material cost. You ready? And then material markup. The correct markup. The lower the cost of the material, the higher the markup. The higher the cost of material, the lower the markup. And I'm not here today to get into this pricing strategy, but step number one to keep you in the green is sell at the right price. Chris, how can I sell at the right price? goes back to establishing your rate that you need to be selling at. Number two, apply that to your price book or everything in your price book task. Then go verify that the task times have been set correctly so that we know that we're charging the correct amount of this with the task that we're performing. And then make sure material cost is included in that along with material markup. Okay, so that's the sell at the right price. That was my squirrel moment that I just chased for y'all. I want you to take that note there. Number two, when you think about getting in the green, well, before we get there, let me actually say this. All of this, once you do it, you need to test it. And how do I test it, Chris? Well, it's actually a fairly simple concept, but it takes work, and a lot of times people won't do it because their software isn't set up correctly to do it. You ready? This is going to be a tough one. Job costing. And I'm going to say to every owner and manager on the line, job costing is the litmus test to your pricing. Sample a few jobs. If you're sampling jobs, I always recommend, by the way, that we run job costing reports on a regular basis. And then more importantly, for all my astute business owners, are like, yeah, Chris, we run job costing exercises all the time. I run them every week. I recommend that you run it on everything over $1,000 ticket because there's massive opportunities and large tickets to gain gross margin dollars and gross margin percentages. But what I will say is most of the time, a job costing report is of no value because the software is not set up correctly. In order for the software to give you a job costing report, it has to have all your direct cost tied to it, which is, I'm going way off script here. Pull me back in if I get too far off, okay? Number one, field labor. And I don't want to get in the weeds on this, but field labor, that's a part of job costing. Material or equipment. And then when I start looking at that, you can job cost off of that. But when we go to direct costs as well, some jobs have subcontractors in them. The cost of that subcontractor should get in there. How does that happen, Chris? Well, you got a PO assigned to that job that's job specific to a vendor, and now the cost of the landscaping or the backhoe or the trenching or the electrician or whatever, the cost of that's associated with that job because you got a proper PO system in place. And then lastly, any potential rental of equipment as well. And so now I can job cost and say, hey, I've noticed that when we do trenching jobs, our gross margin is not as high as it usually is. And the job costing report talks to me and tells me that. And I'm going to give you two things to base this off of, okay? I'm a fan of this, and I'm going to give you this last little nugget on this, and we're going to move on. I'm going to get very elementary on business for a moment, just so that we're all speaking the same language. First off, there are things in the business that we measure and grade based on percentage. Then there's things that we measure and grade that are based on the dollar. And I'm going to say to you, if all you focus on is your gross margin percentage, there's going to be times where you might hit the best gross margin percentage you've ever hit in your entire career of your business, but still not make a profit. So that goes back to we often refer to it as gross margin percentage. And what that does is helps to identify, hey, are we right on our direct costs? That's all that determines. That's all that determines. So when I'm looking at gross margin, I'm looking at the money left over after the sale and after my direct cost. That's a percentage. So when I'm running my company, we're going to talk about this in a few moments, I'm running it off of percentages. However, the bank will not allow you to deposit a percentage. They're going to want money. And so if there's not enough gross margin dollars left over, this is where people end up in negative profit. But most of the time, The culprit to no profit or low profit is almost always indirect cost. Contractors, owners, business, listen, it's because there's a lack of management at the direct cost level. And it's because most of the time our overhead's pretty set. And so the ebbs and flows. Service managers, where my service man, type it in the box if you're a service manager. Just type in a Y if you're a service manager. All right, I got one service manager out of this whole bunch. I got one service manager. Really? Just Brandon? All right. Oh, thank you. Okay, cool. I got two now. I'm good. I can go with it from there. Thank you, Dante, for that. This is 100% service, sales, and install managers. If you're a service manager, sales manager, and install manager, this is 100% what you get paid to manage. You're going to drive top line revenue, but you've got to manage your direct costs, a part of what your role and responsibility is. We run at 18%. Plumbing Service Max, had to check my hats. One says, sir, yeah. Martin's like, hang on, wait, let me see what hat I got on right now. Do I have on? Oh yeah, I've got my service manager hat on right now. So when we look at that, and once again, I typically don't like to talk what margin should I run, Chris? What's a good strong? The only real number I can tell you that's strong is the profitability number, because it has no ambiguity to it. If I said what's a good gross margin, well, it'll depend on what all do you run in your direct costs. And so you're speaking one language and I'm speaking another. And so I can't communicate with you on that. We need to level set and be like, let's have some common ground of what direct costs are. So I don't want to get in that with you guys, but I do want to make sure that this is something that you're aware of, and this is where I'm going to go. Okay, this is the nugget. When you're looking at those big jobs and your job costing, it's not very hard in that job costing report to then break that down to, you ready? Oh, I love this one right here. For all my accounting people, for all my big executive people that are joining in, this is profitability at its finest right here. You want to know how you make a company profitable? Understand its gross margin dollars per hour. That's the only number that really matters. If you can get the right gross margin dollars per hour, everything else in life will be right. Okay. So once again, you gotta sell enough, and that's where the gross margin dollars come into play. So number one, get price right. I did a squirrel moment and chased that for a little while. Thank you, John, for getting me back on track here. So I'm going to go back to what's the next step. So if I'm priced right, now what I want to do is I want to test it, but more importantly, I've got to know this, and this is a very important number for you to know. And this is mostly elementary business stuff, but some of us decided to skip the class and didn't get the lesson. So I've got to be a good steward of your time and share the lesson with you. And the question is, what does it cost you to open the doors every single day? And we would often refer to this as, what is your break even? And you need to know your daily break even, right? In other words, what does it cost to make the doors stay open? Because now, once I understand what it costs to open the doors, I know what I need to sell at. Now I just tack my profitability that I want onto what it costs to make this business happen. So, okay, it costs X to make the doors stay open, then we need to go chase X. And so when you think of the two numbers to keep you in the green, number one, get priced correctly. Number two, make sure every single day that you sell that number. It's super important to sell that number. All right. Now, if you know these two numbers, you're going to set yourself up to be in the green. However, I do want to just caveat that this is not a guarantee that if we're priced right, and I know my cost of doing business, Chris, what it costs to open the doors, I'm going to be successful. Well, you've now got to make sure you manage them. Once again, this is where you got to put on your manager hat and go, hey, now I got to manage my direct cost. I've got to make sure that I manage off the performance, off the KPIs. I need to understand what one single service truck and revenue needs to bring in as a part. So I understand that the cost example, and just give you an example of this. Let's say it costs $10,000 to open the door every single day. And I've got 4 technicians. They need to do $2,500 a day. And if not, we're going backwards. It's just simple math. So if one technician calls out sick, what does that mean? Now the other three have to be able to pick up and run with it. This is why I highly recommend that you take a look at cost of doing business and what is possible. In some cases, we are asking too much of our field staff. And so therefore, in order for us to run a profitable business, we can only run 2 calls a day, and we've got to close at 90% at a $3,800 average ticket. You might be setting yourself up for failure there. You don't have much room for error. And so once again, at that rate, one day of one technician gone, one salesperson gone, you got to make that ground up. And so a lot of times people aren't looking at this, and I like to do it like a golf scorecard. I just like to write the over under of every day. So at the end of every day, if I just kept a little calendar and I just wrote plus 3,000, and tomorrow if we outsell that by 6,000, I do plus 9,000, and I'm running a total so I can get an idea of about where we're going to be at the end of the month. It's super simple. What's it cost daily? Make sure that profit's added in, and then just start keeping track of your daily sales. And on a calendar, you can do the plus minus, and this will help you start to at least be able to see where are we gaining momentum from, right? Everybody on the call, I love you. I appreciate you. I'm gonna make a very profound statement that checkbooks do not tell the story. You look at the ledger, look at the bank account, that does not tell the story. It's the easiest place to find out if you've got money, but it's also the most misleading place to tell you if you've got money. While your numbers do tell a story, the question is, what story are your numbers telling you? And more importantly, is it written in a language that you understand? I get some income statement sometimes and I'm like, this thing's hard to read, man. I'm going to have to interpret what's here first before I can put it together to see what it says. And so sometimes not having good accounting set up correctly on the front end can affect your ability to run the business by the numbers. You said this earlier. When I use the word P&L, profit and loss, it's a historical document. Now, earlier I talked about balance sheets. Balance sheets, when I pull previous dates, is historical. But if I pull a balance sheet for today, it tells me what's going on in this business financially. So looking at for that, and I just want to clarify, if you go into your accounting software today and you pulled a P&L on the 22nd of the month, it won't tell the real story. It might actually show, it looks like, man, we're doing really good right now. Look at our sales, but all the expenses may not be entered in yet. And quite frankly, all the sales might not be entered in. And that's the whole process of closing out the month, making sure that all of the revenue is accounted for and all the expenses are accounted for. So it shows the results. And I want you to write this down. I want you to write this down. The P&L is historical and shows the results of all the activities in that time period. It recorded everything that happened that led to a financial decision here. This is what all of, like, technicians calling out sick, booking in the call center at 56%, overpaying in material, giving away parts. All this shows up on this one document. It starts to paint the picture of what's going on in the business. So if you run the business by the numbers, there's a key to it. And if you're not running the business by the numbers, my friend, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to stay around because I'm going to teach you a few things that might get you there. There's always struggles, and I understand business struggles are real, but let us help you get some freedom. There is a key to it, and that key is it's got to be timely. Getting timely, accurate financials are super important because it's historical, right? It's a historical document. And by the way, we're talking about debt destruction and how to avoid it. This is not a financial seminar, but I am 100% saying today, I am giving you the keys to the kingdom to make sure that you disarm debt. Don't let it, quote, blow up in your face. But if these are historical and we're operating and making business decisions, but they're old, type it in the box. Do you think you could make bad business decisions with old data? Chat that in. Yes or no? Okay. Hard. Yep. It's like hard to make. Well, here's what I would say. I can make business decisions, but I don't really know how good it would be. Right? Here's what I'll say. I got a pretty good idea that I could walk from my driveway to the mailbox blindfolded, but you don't want me to walk to the grocery store. Does that make sense? So you might be able to make some, and I don't mean to make light of that, but that's kind of there's some things that I can make some decisions on based on this, but if I'm really looking for a good strategy and plan, I got to make sure that I'm using good historical data. And so once it's so old, might not be any good that I'm trying to make decisions. So let's talk about process. At our last acceleration days, which by the way, for those that don't know, Acceleration Days is an event that we put on for our members. It's workshop style, helping you build and grow your business. Every year, it's something new that we're bringing that we're working on with your business. In our last event, the reason why I said that's because in our last event, Jeremy taught from stage accounting processes to ensure that businesses could have a process to get timely financials. And I'd say if there is no process in getting timeliness around your income statement, I want you today to set a goal. This is a takeaway for you, okay? If I asked you to set a goal today because you're like, Chris, I don't even really know when we get our income statement. Well, here's how we work even today, prior as my service business owner and today. I don't go pull the report. I have my accounting team send it to me. This is called Accountability 101. I know that by a certain day, I should see my P&L. And if I don't receive it, I can now say, hey, I understand there's a delay. I haven't got it because I want to look at it. Even if I don't like the story that I think it's going to tell, the methodology of being an ostrich is not going to help you here. Right? We're trying to disarm debt. We got to know what's going on. So here's what I want you to write down today, okay? If you don't have a set standard, you should set one. If you're like, actually, Chris, I do get one every month, but as you think about it, I don't know that it consistently comes at a certain time frame. And remember that setting standards in business is super important to the operations. So I'm going to ask you to do this. Some of you today just need to write down that I need to actually communicate the standard of when I get the income statement. And you probably want to make it, hey, it gets emailed to me, not just I know to go pull it. Now you can have it set up to auto run the reports, but what day will you set it for? If you don't know what the expectation is to your team of when it'll be complete, so you may get a report auto emailed to you, but the books may not really be closed. And so now I'm using information that's not only could potentially be old, but also inaccurate. So I want you to write this down. Might be that you need to create some standards around this particular thing. I plead with you, start somewhere. Put the 15th on your calendar. By the 15th, I need my P&L by the 15th. Now, it's not ideal. It's not ideal at all, but it's something. And getting started is the hardest part. Let me say that again. Getting started is the hardest part. If you're already at the 15th, I'm going to encourage you today to stretch yourself a little bit and stretch your accounting team. Let's move that number to the 10th. Get us 5 more days, right? And then for those that are like, yeah, I'm kind of already there, Chris, I'm going to encourage you to stretch your team again and try to move that number to the 7th of the month. And for those that are already achieving that, push the boundary to the 5th. And for those that excel at everything in their business, I'm going to push you for this one, okay? So let me say this. This is not about comparison. Don't immediately jump into the comparison mindset. Why, hell, Chris, I don't even know the last time I got emailed one. I just kind of been running. Listen, all progress begins just by telling the truth. Get real with yourself. Hey, I know I'm not getting proper income statement. And by the way, don't leave because we're not done yet. I know we've been an hour and 15 in this thing, but I'm going to give you more tactical things, so don't leave. The 15th, the 10th, the 7th, or the 5th. Move the needle. When you elevate expectations, you elevate results. And for those that are already hitting that, I'm going to encourage you that you get your income statement 3 working days into the following month, which could be the 5th, but make it 3 working days. What that allows you to do is get really quick information so you can know what's going on. And if you go and go, Chris, we're making money, everything's good, everything's dialed in, that's what everybody says until the stuff hits the fan. And don't lead yourself down the path to believe that things are a certain way and they'll always be that way. Keep your eye on the ball. I don't care how great of a hitter you are in Major League Baseball. You look at my college, by the way, men's college World Series. Those guys go yard all the time, and one thing you know in that game is they're going to hit home runs. But let me say this: they lost games. Like, you don't just believe just because you got 6 dudes on the team, 4 dudes on the team that have hit 20 plus home runs in a year, it ain't a guaranteed win. And I'm saying to you today, just because you have been making profit doesn't guarantee that your money's going to make profit next month. Be a good steward of your business. Take care of the goose. And do that by accurate financials. Let me give you the example. The later you get them, the less time you have to make changes and improvements. I want you to think about it like this. And I like to use sports references because they're very much like business. There's strategy, there's plans, and there's a score being kept. So imagine that you're playing football, which, by the way, for those that may not know, it's broken down into 4 15-minute quarters. And what if they were not actually posting the score real time, but what if they didn't wait till the end of the quarter to update you and say, hey, by the way, here's where the score box is. Here's where you stand. You're playing the game thinking, hey, I kind of got a feeling we're winning. And then when you look at the score, like, oh, whoa, hang on, wait. We're nowhere near where I thought we were. And so knowing exactly where you're at and working within the score gives you the ability to quickly make decisions. Hey, our gross margin is off. I can start to see that. Where does that come in? Doing job costing reports. And when I'm doing that regularly, I'll be able to see it before the income statement ever hits. I tell people this all the time. You should never be surprised to look at your income statement. I can tell you every single month at Blue Collar, I can tell you almost exactly what I'm going to see when I open it up. And I'm not telling you I'm a perfect operator. Let me be very clear. I'm flawed and I'm not perfect. I've got my ups and I've got my downs. I've got the things that I'm great at. I got the things I'm not great at, just like you. But one thing I do know is I know what's going on in the business from a financial standpoint. And as a manager and owner, you've got to make sure that you're a good steward of the things that you're in charge of. Now what's going to need to happen is the review. And this is where I want you to really slow down and take some notes, okay? When we look at a review of an income statement, I want to say this. For those that are on, I'll give you a few nuggets around how to review the income statement. Number one, I highly recommend that you have a budget that is built and that it's inside of your financial software so that you can pull one report that is a budget to actual report. That's the first one that we're going to look at. The second one that you're going to pull is going to be, and it's going to just be just that period, that time period, in an Excel format, show percentage of income. Let me share with you why. Remember earlier we were talking about this? It's because I'm trying to make decisions based on the percentages of what's going on. If all of a sudden I get my income statement and it says, hey, we spent $300,000 in material this month. I'm like, okay, that sounds like a lot of money. But what if 300,000 only came in at 10% of total income? That's pretty dang good if you're a plumbing company. It's pretty dang good if you're an electrical company, right? When you're looking at your overall cost, you're looking at these numbers, you're monitoring it by percentage. Why do I like to do Excel and show percentage of income? Because there's another number that I'm going to show you. Ready? John, can you highlight this? Why I'm burning through flip my paper today. There's a really good chance that you will be most favorable to make money if material and equipment, I'm going to lump this in. And then you ready? Total. labor as a percentage, as a percentage, as a percentage. And these numbers, you show me the business that has their material in line, their equipment in line, and their total labor in line. And I won't even have to look to the bottom line to see if they made money, because they're probably making money, because in many cases, you ready? This KPI, total labor, key, not loaded, just total labor costs, somewhere between 30 and 33% of total income is here. Total labor, that's field and office. And if you're an owner and you pay yourself an inflated salary to make sure that it's a strategy that you don't owe, I don't want to get in the weeds here, but if get it back and go, what would it pay? What would I have to pay somebody at my rate to really run this business? That would be considered what I might be an add back. So if you're at 36%, but if you're like, actually, Chris, 6% of that's me, then you're good, right? Material in some cases are going to range somewhere between 10 and 12% on the high side, and then equipment somewhere on the 20% on the high side. So let's go high side here, 32% total between equipment and material. And then I bring that down here and I add 32 to 33. 65% of my cost is wrapped up in those line items right there. And your income statement, more than likely your P&L doesn't have total labor broken out. More than likely you've got field labor. You might even have commissions. If your business is like mine, your field labor was broken down into subcategories of technician wages, technician overtime wages, apprentice overtime wages. I broke that out that way so that I could see how productive we are at our overtime. I don't want to cut overtime. I just want to make sure it's productive. Okay. Now we're at the top of the hour. We're about 10 minutes past. Do me a favor, and I want you to type in one word that describes how you feel right now. We're not done. I just want to make sure I didn't lose anybody through all these financial stuff. We're going to teach on the last part of the topic. It looks like we're going to finish early. Okay. Enlightened, caffeinated, confused, but want more. Okay, cool. Thanks for being in, CJ, for that. Sponge, thank you, Stephen, for that. Better, focused, educated. Our labor is 31. Congratulations, Zach, on that. Eating it up. Good. On point. Great information. Stressed. Hey, do me a favor right now, David Stahl. I want you to turn that around. I don't believe in that, man. I believe in self-destruction. We talk right now. What I'd say is, hey, unknown. I didn't know, right? Good. Very educated, good, smart, love this. Okay, cool. Thank y'all. Because sometimes teaching accounting is not always the fun. It's not always the funnest thing to do. And quite frankly, it's hard to keep people's attention when you're teaching numbers and accounting. And some people are like, heck yeah, Chris, I'm eating it up. And some are like glazed over, like, Chris, you lost me way back there when you took a hard turn, right? Yeah, and I understand that too, Angie, right? You got things going on, right? I'm super honored to share this time. And so when we move into this next part, these are things that are very near and dear to my heart, which is making sure that we do the two things that we need to do to stay in the green. Then we understand what the two numbers are that we need to do for that. Then we start talking about the reviewing of the business. And when you review that, I'm a big fan of, if somebody owns it, give them visibility to it. Now I'm going to say this. Now, my team here at Blue Collar, if some different people have different P&L responsibility. And so example, I got team members on today, and if they have any P&L responsibility, they get their section of the P&L, right? They get their section of the P&L so that they can make sure they manage it correctly. And my accounting department does that. They put together their section. So as a business, I look at the high level, but then I've got managers looking at their section. I'm going to say this today, as a general manager or owner, I said this earlier, service managers, sales managers, and installation managers are 100% responsible for direct cost and managing them. And if you're not giving them some level of report to show them where they're at, you're missing a massive opportunity. Get it to them the way that you need to get it to them, but you need them to see where they need to be. And I'm going to go on a tangent here. Most service managers, sales manager, and install managers, hang on, wait, let me just stop for a minute. Anybody familiar with the Peter Principle? The Peter Principle. Anybody know about that? All right, cool. Tom, I see one wave on that. Let me break down the Peter Principle for everybody, okay? Because I think it'll make sense. Um, what ends up happening in businesses as businesses grow, and this is one of those where I'm out on a tangent right now, but I got a point, okay? I'm gonna get there. We're gonna take a couple turns to get there. I'm gonna call this a position. I'm just gonna call this a tech for right now. Okay, so how do I go from tech to supervisor? And most of the times in businesses and in our industry, to go from tech to supervisor, what is it that's required to be a good tech? Most of the time, it's like revenue. You got all these things that you measure this technician by and say, this is a good technician. You know what we should do? We should make them a supervisor. And so the business is growing and it needs a supervisor. So somehow this technician that was fantastic at this role might have been number one tech in the whole company, number one salesperson, number one best installer, number one whatever. We're like, aha, I know what I'll do. I'll put them in a manager role and they'll teach everybody else how to do what they do because they're really good at doing it. And then they get promoted to supervisor. And I'm going to say, hey, it's not like they're not the best anymore, but whatever you got them to do, you probably would grade them at like a B, right? They're not rock star anymore. But hey, you know what? They're getting the job done. And this is where it gets crucial. Because they're a B, they get promoted to manager. And they lack the necessary skills to perform the managerial duties. I see business after business after business. How do I know this? I'll go in and I'll talk to the service manager and I'll ask them questions like, hey, what billable hour are you guys priced at? I don't know. What material percentage are you shooting for? Like 30%. I'm like, well, they don't know the answer. They just shot from the hip there, right? Because 30% sounds like a horrible number to me in a service business. And then lastly, build labor. And I'll ask that question. And when managers can't answer these questions for me, I've recognized that they have fallen victim to the Peter Principle. And there's a book that's written on this. It basically means that someone is so good at something that they do, they get promoted to the thing that's above them, and they get promoted outside of their skill set, and therefore they fail. It is a plague in our industry that runs rampant all the time. And I'm going to say today, now you know, don't be promoting people without telling them. So I like what Chris Denham said. I love how he produced it. And he said it's very simple. If we were to call these letters, Chris Dunham, by the way, is a fantastic business and motivation speaker. If you've never heard of him, his life story is amazing. This is how he works, and I adopted this in my business. If at A, you want to be a B, you're going to learn this stuff right here while you're down here. And that's what will give you the opportunity to get the promotion. You're not going to go from A to B and go, all right, how do I do this job? That is like destructive to the business, because especially when it goes from B to C, that's where they're way in over their head. And so if I'm at a B and I want to be a C, I want to know, what does it take to be this? And by the way, that is one of the keys to recruiting and retaining top talent, is skilling people up and providing them the platform that they can go get better at their job and get a promotion. So hard left turn, let me take a hard right turn and get back on the path, right? We went through mud, we went through the trees, we drove through vines. We got to clean this stuff off and get back on track. And so I'd say to you that now what I want to do is give you the 2 tactics today that are going to totally disarm debt destruction. What I'm about to share with you is like, if you guys have ever seen it, type it in the box if you know what I'm talking about. The movies where probably one, I might date myself a little bit. Anybody remember the movie Speed with Keanu Reeves, and there was a bomb on the bus, and they needed to know which wire to clip. You with me? Type that in the box if you understand what I'm talking. Okay, cool. All right, got you. Yes, yeah, we're on the same. I got you. What are you doing there, hot shot? Yeah, exactly. So what I'm about to share with you is the wiring schematic to disarm the debt bomb. That's what I'm going to give you. And I'm going to make it super easy for you. Not super complicated, super easy. 2 tactics today. Number 1, I want you to write it down. Drive sales. I already shared with you earlier. It's one of the things we need to know. What does it cost to keep the doors open? Okay. Now I got to make sure that I'm driving sales. And let me be very clear. This is not a cry for you better go out and unload. Hey, you technicians, when you get to that customer's house, you better sell them everything that they need. No, 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 no. I am totally against technicians and salespeople rolling up to houses like their service truck is a dump truck and they hit the eject button at the customer's house and try to sell them everything. Let me be clear though. If they need it, they need it. If you got cool products to talk about, you should talk about cool products. But when I say drive sales, we are not an organization that is an in your face, you better go figure. That's not how we work at Blue Collar. I think all of our members know this. But now we know the number that needs to happen to make the doors be open every day. You've got to lean into your selling system to ensure that you're getting maximum ROI. What is a selling system, Chris? A selling system is, I was just on the phone with a new member yesterday and they were just blown away. They're like, "Oh my God, like nobody's doing this at all." And I'm like, "Hey man, don't get all up twisted up on this, man." The cool part is now you know. Now you know what you need to go work on. And his call center was just all twisted up about it. A selling system is this is how at our company we answer the phone. I'm not saying robotic, but I'm saying from a scripting structure standpoint, we all answer the phone this way. Here is how we dispatch. And by the way, dispatching, there's an art to it, but there's a system behind it. And if you don't have a system behind it, depending on who's running dispatch, you might get a realist portrait or you might get a Picasso. I don't know. They can do all kinds of crazy artistic things with your dispatch board. But a system keeps them within the confines of what needs to be done. It is a part of a selling system. Here's how we all run service calls. Here's how we write up options. Here's how we approach ourselves at the door. Here's what we look. This is how we run big ticket calls. Here's what we do when we outbound call. This is how everybody, it's literally the system in which your company uses to drive revenue. And if you don't have a good system, this will be a hard challenge for you to drive sales. Make sure you have a system in place. It might be one of those where, hey, we got the plane flying, let's fix it while it's in the air. Okay, great. I'm not saying land the plane and rebuild it, but it starts with measuring your KPIs, knowing what your key performance indicator numbers are, and more importantly, measuring them against something so that you understand, are we okay right now or are we not okay? It would be as silly as getting in your vehicle and driving from Florida to California and your gas gauge doesn't work. Do you know what you're going to do? One of 2 things. You're going to stop and get gas too frequently, or you're going to run out of gas. And it's just simply because you don't know what's going on. Make sure that you provide yourself the insight for the numbers to run the business. In addition to that, build and implement a training plan. If I've got KPIs, I'm saying, hey, as a technician, you need to be at this close rate. You need to be at this average ticket. I've got standards in the business. We need to be at this booking percentage. That's the KPI. But I can't just go, all right, cool, got everybody hired, they're all trained. No, you got to actually have an ongoing training plan, well thought out, designed to help you skill your team up. What are the things that we are going to do? I'm telling you, I'll never forget as long as I live. I tell this story often. TJ, who by the way, TJ is actually the local branch manager here at the location of my business where I sold. TJ would eventually get promoted, but I'll never forget. We were in that room. I was training in the front of the room, and TJ was a good guy. He's good at sales. It clicked with him. He's good. He raised his hand. He's like, "Chris, I got a question." I was like, "Yeah, TJ, what's the question?" He's like, "When are we going to move on from this topic?" And without missing a beat, I said, "As soon as everybody in the room understands it." And we were talking about options, and we sucked at options. And I'll say that again, we sucked at options. And I was like, as soon as everybody's on the same page on how to write up quality options, we'll move on from this. Until then, we're not moving on. Like we got people that are not getting it yet. And when they get it, then we move on from that. And this goes back to, once you teach somebody how to do something, don't assume that they're always going to continue to do it the same way you taught them. They're going to fall into new habits and routines. Therefore, they need to be trained on an ongoing basis, consistently ongoing. Call center agents, dispatchers, managers, supervisors, service techs, installers, apprentices, salespeople, everybody in the organization needs to be on a training plan to ensure that they're getting better. Once again, well thought out, designed to help skill your team up. Number 2, plug where the profits are leaking. How does this happen, Chris? Plug the profits. Like, the profits are flowing out of the business. Imagine that you and I were making a trip from Miami to the Bahamas in a boat, and there were holes in that boat and it's taking on water. There's going to be a portion of it where we need to bail the water out, but that's not a good long-term strategy. Plugging the holes is a better long-term strategy. Plugging them one at a time if you have to, because if I've got 7 holes and I plug one, I'm closer to less water to have to bail out. So some of you today, you might be bailing the water out, but I'm saying today, you better start plugging the holes, because bailing the water out is where fatigue comes in. You're just going to simply get tired of bailing the water out. And that's when I hear people say things like, it is so hard to run a business. Chris, you don't understand the staying up at night. No, BS, I do understand that. I run a business today. And I'm saying that if you create the freedom in your business and you stop ignoring the things in the business that need to be addressed and turning a blind eye, or quite frankly, you just keep bailing the water out. Listen, this is my people. You are my people, but you have the highest tolerance for pain of anybody I've ever seen. You just tolerate pain that you should not tolerate. Fix the damn problems. Make sure you got the right strategy. And this is why having a timely P&L is super important, because now I'm reviewing it. I'm looking at numbers and I'm looking percentages. What numbers are off? What percentages are off? For me, everything that's a fixed cost, the percentage should go down as the higher the revenue up. And once again, with variable costs, the number is going to go up as revenue goes up. So that's why I'm not just looking just percentage. I'm also looking at numbers. So start with the areas that has the largest impact first. Remember where I told you. I gave them to you on the last flip chart. Material, equipment, total labor. Get those in check, and then you can start going to work on the other things, right? Let me just give you the example. If your material cost currently today is 20%, and it should be 12%. If you go to work with the right strategies, and by the way, let me say these, the strategies that are used here, in many cases, is the first thing that needed to happen, which is get priced right. That'd be the first thing I'd go to. Am I even priced right? All right, great. Yep, we're priced right. All right, start running job cost and report. Let's find out what's going on. Oh, we're giving away every time that we have a subcontractor. We're not including that in the, I mean, just so many things could surface. Here's my question for you. Open the chat. Stay with me. Don't fall asleep yet. Wake up. Hey, y'all seen me in the accounting class, didn't you? I was like, I was nodding off. I want you to type this in the box in simplest format you know possible. If my material cost is 20 and it should be 12, if I fix it and go from 20 to 12, where does the 8% go? %. Thank you. Yeah, star students. And so do you see how easy? Do you see how easy one tactic of one number that's off could pay massive dividends? Massive dividends. And I'm going to say this, no matter if, and I just want to level set, right? Because Dante, I'm with you. I understand that to profit if nothing else is off. But even if something else is off, it's still going to go straight to the bottom line. It'll just show that we were at 2% net profit. Hey, or hang on, wait, watch this. We were at -2. Now we're at +6. It's going to help if you didn't cover your overhead cost. Now it's going to certainly, it's going to, what I would consider to be supercharge profitability. If you're already making money, right? Let's just say we're at 0 profitability. And this is our scenario. You'll immediately go from 0 to 8 because material cost is just simply that. It goes straight to the bottom line. It will help cover overhead if you're not profitable. I do understand some of those that chat today. I do understand that, but really making money fall to the bottom line. And I'm going to say this today. It is your business, even if you don't own it. Let me be very clear. I don't own a fraction of the Blue Collar Success Group, but I run this business like it's mine because I invest myself into everything I do. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it great. We're not done, so don't leave. I see people, we told you 2 hours. I was very clear about that. 2 hours. Give me 2 hours of your time. But what I want to say is now that I understand this, I recognize that I'm the author and the editor of the narrative that I want my business and the story that I want it to tell. And remember, nothing changes until you take charge here. Today, I've shared with you tons of strategies, tons of note taking. I've seen people feverishly taking notes. So the question that we all now have to ask is, what is our next steps? What do I need to do? I want you to take all the notes that you've taken today, and I want you to review them. And I want you to start looking at where's the highest impact and the easiest thing to do. And from there, you're going to formulate what your plan is. And for everybody, it's going to be different. That's why I didn't just show them like, all right, cool. Let me email y'all this document. Y'all go do this. It's not that simple. Every business is a little different. Now we're an hour and a half in. I want you to just stop. Everybody just do me a favor. Sit back in your chair and relax. I'm now going to perform a solo act of my favorite song, and it's going to calm you down. No, I am just kidding. That would run everybody off. Don't do that. I'm not singing, I promise. But I want you to take a moment and recognize that if you're moving to a state of overwhelm now that you showed up, I've not done my job. What I hope is that I've energized you. I've started to shine a light on things that need to be taken care of. For some of you, you're thinking, hey, I need to go do this, or I need to stop doing this. Just slow down for a minute, right? Let everything be calming, and let's talk about taking action. But before you take action, it's like running in a room and it's on fire, and you're just running around grabbing everything that's on fire, trying to get it out of the room so it doesn't catch the house on fire. Hey, there might be a water hose in the room to put the fire out. So don't just run and go, I got to go fix this. I got to go do that. Just slow down, take a moment for you and your team, right? That's the most important thing you can do is slow down. So if I said, who's ready to now go, all right, cool. I'm not getting it done today, but I'm certainly got some actionable items. Yes, thank you. Type it in the box. Melissa, yes, she's like, I got some homework to do. Good for you, Melissa. Yes, ready. Yes, exactly. This excites me. The world rewards people that take action. Chris, I don't know what to do. Okay, that's fine. Hey, what I'm gonna say is you can't make mistakes if you ain't doing anything. And I'm telling you, I'm 45 years old and I've made some few mistakes, but it's because I've been doing some things. Okay? So here's the next steps. Here's what I want, okay? Next steps on top of that. What do I do after that, Chris? What is the next thing that you want me to do? I want to tell you that my goal today, as I said, and I shared this with you, that I wanted to make sure that when you were here that I increased your confidence. I hope that the time that we spent, you're like, heck yeah, I'm like, this is, yeah, kick the tires and light the fires. I like that, Brandon. I might steal that one. I might R&D that one. Thank you, Bob. I hope that you found the time that we spent very valuable. And I want to now just kind of bring this home for a moment. I want you to open up your chat and I want to ask you a few questions. And the answer is either I or O. All right? I means working in it. The I is in. Okay. Working on it is the equivalent of an O. So if I said, ask you a question, type this in, is that working in it or is that working on it? Meaning your business. Okay. The first question is this. You ready? Out of the two, in it versus on it, which one is most comfortable for you? I or O? Working in it or working on it's more comfortable? There's a pretty big mix there. Yep, pretty big mix, and we see it a lot. Like it's just all about what gets your juices flowing. All right, next question. Man, you guys are lighting that chat board up right now. The next one. Yeah, O is scarier. O is scarier, David. I like that, man. All progress becomes a telling the truth. I'm used to doing the in it thing. And in order to be a high level entrepreneur and grow your business, you got to spend some time on it. Question. Which one is more demanding, in it or on it? In other words, which one is more demanding of you? Okay. On it for sure. It can be very demanding. In many cases, I'll share this with everybody as a bonus. It's the easiest to not do. Working on it is the easiest to not do. Working in it, oh, there's emails got to be returned, customer concerns, team members want time off. Like, yeah, like that's the usually it's it's the urgent stuff that's in your face screaming at you. Working in it. The service call that needs to go ran because we don't have anybody to go get it. Oh, Joe's got a flat tire. Oh, so it just you feel me. I know what it's like to work in a service business. The question that I ask is the third question. Which one do you believe is more impactful for you? I or O? Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, tons of O's, yeah. And for some of you, you might type in I, and I'm not going to argue with you. It might be the most impactful thing that you can do is to work in the business, especially if you don't have enough technicians to outrun calls and you're outrunning calls right now because you need to go generate revenue. There is no right answer. It's just where are you at right now? And I want to share with you something that as a part of your time here today, I want to give you something, and I want to give you this as a token of my appreciation, which is I want to tell you about an event that we host. And please don't leave. I'm going to lock you in a room. Just kidding. No, that's not how we work. I just want to share with you what happens. This is Kelton. He owns a plumbing business in the Knoxville, Tennessee area. He just said, hey, it's been on fire. I've learned nonstop during the sessions, and I keep learning during breaks as I network to exchange ideas. Kelton was actually at our event in April. He stood up and shared that his business went from 2.5 million to $10 million in 2.5 years with us. This is what we do. And I don't mean to sound egotistical, but we do it damn good. We're really good at this. Our members that are crushing it are saying things to us like, Chris, can you create more space for us so that we can have time to network with our other members and work on the business? And so another example, another one of our amazing clients, they're like limiting beliefs we have prior to going out the window. Our mindsets change. This is a father and son business. He's like, it all started when we came to the event. This could be the very catalyst for you as well. And so I want you to hear me out before you shut me down and leave. Okay? What would you be willing to invest in your business and your team as long as it made sense? And I'm going to tell you there's two investments you'll make. The first one is the more important one. It's time. Time to invest in you and into your business to go do the things that we just talked about. In addition to that, money. Sometimes we got to spend money to invest in our business. We talked about this early, good debt, bad debt. And I would ask the question, what would 2.5 days working with a group like this, live and in person, if it was a table of owners and managers just like you, would you find that to be super valuable? Okay, yes. Okay, cool. Let me share this with you. I'm talking about an industry event, and I'm gonna be a little harsh here for a moment. What I'm gonna say is gonna come across very harsh, but you can find any excuse to take a vacation and go drink and eat like a king or a queen. That's not the type of event I'm talking about. You're not gonna see Magic Johnson. You're not gonna hear Jason Aldean or Taylor Swift. You're gonna get business. That's what we do. We roll up our sleeves and we go to work. These are the kind of takeaway stuff you're gonna get. So I want you to write down these dates right now. I want you to write down November the 4th, 5th, and 6th. And don't immediately go into the excuse making of Chris, November the 5th, election day. Good. Then prior to going to the event, make arrangements to early vote. I don't want you to have to choose between the two because the two could be super important. Thank you, Zach. Good to see you, man. I want you to write it down. They could very well be the most impactful 2.5 days to your business this year. It's going to happen in Orlando, Florida. And I want to talk to you about the reason why. This event is easily worth $3,000. I could charge $3,000 a ticket. I could bring in lights and talent and I could do all that. But this event is specifically focused for our members, ones that have experienced exponential growth in revenue, margins, and profits. Their business continues to get better. This event consistently, ever since we've been doing this, confidence to them and their team, helping us accelerate your success. This is an example. Once again, this is not one of those 3,000 large events you're going to and you get lost in the space. Very intimate setting, a couple hundred people in a room. We're going to get together. Now, the reason why I'm asking you to stay on is because we host this event for our membership. Members, get registered. It's included in your membership. Remember that. This is an event we do for you. If you're not a member, I want you to slow down. I want to show you how I'm going to help you get there. Our members love the opportunity to work on their business, which is what we just talked about, right? They get exposed to networking opportunities as they workshop style learn together. Now, this event, once again, is our Acceleration Days workshop. I'm releasing right now what the event's going to be focused on. In this event, we're going to talk about solidifying your business. We're going to be talking about revenue, financials, cash flow, and cost control. Those are the 4 financial cornerstones to a service business. Because our members enjoy this event as a part of their membership, our costs for the event's covered. That's the reason why I don't need to sell you a ticket for $3,000. But due to that, it opens up an opportunity. But it's not good enough for everybody. I want to say that. I want to be very clear. If we gave you an opportunity to go to this workshop style with all of our amazing members, remember this 2.5-day workshop is focused on solidifying your business and your team. If you want to strengthen your business today, I want you to type in the box, yes. Type in yes or a Y if you want to strengthen your business. Thank you, Sal. Beat everybody to the punch. Heck yeah. Let's strengthen some businesses. Listen, this economic crisis that they're talking about, this election year they're talking about, I'm not saying that people are immune to it, but I'm telling you, you've got to shut the noise out and get your head down and go, what do I need to go do? I don't know where I'll end up, but I do know this. Wherever I end up, I'm going to be on top of the pile. Does that make sense? I want you on top of the pile. Whatever the pile is, we want you on top of the pile. And because of that, we're going to talk about learning how to turn on the cash flow knob to full blast, help you to better understand things that need to be implemented to help cost control, discover how we can help you with your culture and how to make it a culture of excellence. In addition to that, here's my promise to you. If you attend this event, I'm verbally telling you this right now. You make the decision to attend this event and you feel like you wasted your money, you come see me personally at the event, I'll give you 100% refund of your ticket, no questions asked. And the reason why is because I'm that confident that you're going to crush it by attending this event. Now, the event that we typically offer typically comes at $1,497 retail. However, because you're very serious about growing your team and your business, I'm offering you this today for $897. It's unheard of. I know. Chris, what's the catch? I already told you what the catch is. The reason why is because it's included in our membership. But I do want to say this. I only have room for the first 15. So the first 15 people that jump on this, my team right now is dropping in the link for you to get registered. Members, do me a favor. Make sure you're logged in so that you get your tickets included. John, thank you so much for dropping that in. Once again, these tickets will go fast. I can only guarantee the first 15. And this is based on our membership and how many people I think we can get extra in the room without having for me to tell my members, sorry, we don't have room for you. But as a non-member, I want to offer this to you. If you know this makes sense, don't even come close to hesitating. They will sell. I promise. The tickets will sell. And then I got to have a conversation of, I got to put you on the wait list. If I find out I got room, I'll call you. I'll let you in. Right now, once again, if you're ready to accelerate your path of success, I want you to go ahead and click the link, reserve the spot. Super easy. And I told you, by the way, if you can get all your money back, and then you can say, by the way, David, do me a favor, John, capture that message. He's saying they have had no success in signing up. So here's where I'm going to go with this. I just want to stop by and say thank you. Right. Thank you for taking your business serious. Thank you for hanging out as we shared energy, as we shared excitement, and as we shared tactical things that you can do for your business. Yes, there's a lot of things you could go do, but when you're away from your business, it affords you the opportunity to work on the business. Now, here's what I'm going to do now. You know it's right. Go ahead and get your tickets. Members, get signed up. Don't play around. We're so ready to rock this out for you guys. But here's what I'm going to do now. John, I think there probably was a lot of questions that came up. I don't know how many. I just seen some in the chat that I know I didn't get to. My bad. Could you just give me what the questions are and I'll make sure to answer all of them?
Absolutely. You did answer a couple of them on here that I had, but there was one that you didn't address. Aaron with Blue Line was asking, what do we have in the vault that would help him with his P&L, if we have Excel tools or anything like that?
100%. Yep. Great. So it's going to depend on your level of membership, but I'm going to start at the top and say, number one, the chart of accounts tool. That's like super. Yep. And I'll get that one as well. I get that question. The chart of accounts tool basically helps level set so that we're all speaking the same language. That'd be the first one. The second tool is our KPI tool, and it's built by trade. You're going to see all of your performance KPI numbers that you can then measure yourself against to see where are we trending up, where are we trending down. The third tool is the financial income statement benchmarking tool, where you will then do more than what I showed you. Because I wasn't trying to position tools here. I'm not trying to get you to buy a membership so you can get some tool. I'm trying to help you get information. So I was teaching you everything to do without the tools. As a member, the financial income statement benchmarking tool, that's where it's at. You're going to take your numbers, you're going to drop it in. It's going to show you very clearly where you're off based on the industry numbers that you should be at. There you go. And then what was the company for the line of credit? Yeah, Brandon. Brandon, are you guys members? And I feel bad even asking that question. It's just a lot of new members we have that I don't know. Brandon with Father and Son Plumbing that asked. The answer is yes or no, because I'm going to. Okay. All right. So let me tell you that you can still go to them, but as a member, you do have benefits. Okay. So I was going to give you the exact contact name for the person to call. And you know what, Brandon, look, man, here's the deal. I'm such an abundance guy. Just do me a favor. I want you to call Jordan. His name is Jordan with Live Oak Bank. Okay. And Live Oak Bank is the #1 SBA lender in North America. They write more SBA loans than anybody, volume wise and number wise. They are the premier. And then they have, Brandon, what is called Live Oak Express. Okay. And that was right. Now, there's some caveats to how much can you get. I'm giving you guys like the boundaries. It's like 500,000 max. And by the way, on an unsecured loan, $500,000 is a lot of cash. But they base it off of things like previous history of financial. Yeah, there you go, Bill. Very easy to deal with. We love those guys. All of our vendor partners that we do business with, we like to do business with people that help us grow our business. So I hope that helps as well, Brandon. The name of the company is called Live Oak Bank. They're in Raleigh, North Carolina. That'll let you know if you're in the right space or not for the right person. But his name is Jordan Cordero. Ask to speak to Jordan Cordero, but tell him, Brandon, that Chris Crew with the Blue Collar Success Group told you to call. All right. And just let him know that you're not a member, but hey, we're just trying to spread the love, man. I'm trying to help the contracting space. It saved my life, gave me purpose, continues to evolve for me and provide opportunities. So here's the deal. If you have no other questions for Chris, and this is where we can go Q&A, rapid fire, any question you've got, I got 12, I have 11 minutes. You can either unmute. I mean, literally, there's no topic. I wear a size 11 shoe. I love long walks on the beach. I love whiskey. What else y'all want to know about me? Yeah. Yeah, some of those unsecured as well, Tom. Just when you call, just talk to. I highly recommend as a member. He's gonna treat you right, and then get with. Do me a favor and get with Richie on that. They're 100%. Yeah. Oh, Randy, I knew you would ask that. I don't know that. You can find it in our vault. So when you go to the vault and you go to the vendor section, the Blue Collar Elite Buy, you'll actually find Jordan's direct number right there. CJ, what is the labor percentage you should be at for job costing? CJ, that'll be a little different depending on what type of job it is. Are we talking service? And then also what trade are we talking? That'll be a little bit different as well. So if you want to throw that in there, I'm happy to answer that question as well. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Greg. I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you, Brandon. I'm glad you came, man. I don't know if this is your first interaction with us or not, but super glad you came and hung out with us for a little while. Service plumbing, that number, it's changing and evolving a little bit, CJ, but that number is going to be not to exceed 20% in field labor. Once again, that's not loaded, not with benefits, not any of that. There you go, Lori. There you go. Boom. There's Jordan's number. Tell him Chris told you to call. Yeah, thank you guys. I know people got to go. Once again, just my heart is warm today just because I got the opportunity to share with you. But don't forget, 15 seats and they're gone. I'm not trying to hard sell you. I'm just letting you know you'll be on the outside and I'll have to keep singing the song. You keep on knocking, but you can't come in. So do yourself a favor if you know it's right for you. Members, don't hesitate. This is a part of the membership. You got to get there. Look forward to seeing y'all once again. Be on the lookout for another one of our Management Mastery series, and we look forward to seeing you guys in the future. Y'all take care.
Your success is what we do best at the Blue Collar Success Group.